Hello, everyone. My name is Kennette Worlds, and I'm the Student, Faculty, and Young Professional Activities Coordinator at ACI. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on the ACI FRC Bowling Ball Competition. We're glad that you could join us. This webinar will provide answers to some commonly asked questions and help you prepare for the upcoming competition. The learning objectives for this webinar are as shown on your screen. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the chat box found on your screen to ask a question. We will try to address as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Beverly Heasey is a technical engineer at Ford Corporation, where she provides engineering support to the sales team, educates customers about the many benefits of using fiber reinforcement in concrete, and is a corporate technical writer. With degrees in mechanical engineering and physics, Beverly has spent her career in Grove City, PA. She first served as a technical writer for Cooper Bessemer Corporation, a manufacturer of integral gas engine compressors, and then the senior information developer for Instron, a global manufacturer of materials testing equipment. When Instron closed their Grove City facility in 2017, she was in search of a new job. After almost 25 years of writing instruction manuals, she took this opportunity to shake up her career and learn something new. Thus, her switch into the realm of fiber reinforced concrete and Forta Corporation. Beverly became an active member of ACI shortly after joining Forta, and in fact, her first ACI meeting was a spring 2018 convention where she was a volunteer for the Student FRC Bowling Ball Competition. She has spent 7 years volunteering with Boy Scouts and 4-H while being a mom to her 3 sons. So the Student Bowling Ball Competition is truly right up her alley. And now Bev will begin today's presentation.
Thank you, Kennette, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the FRC Bowling Ball Competition webinar. Our webinar topics today will be to go over competition objectives, the competition schedule, the documents that are required to be submitted, the competition rules, and also the frequently asked questions that are posted on the website. And we'll begin with the competition objectives. As listed on the ACI FRC Bowling Ball Competition website, the objective of this competition is to demonstrate the behavior of fiber reinforcement within concrete, gain experience in forming and fabricating a fiber reinforced concrete element, and to encourage creativity with compliance in engineering design and analysis. To achieve this objective, you will design and construct bowling balls made with fiber reinforced concrete, predict the behavior of your bowling balls to compete against yourself, test the behavior of your bowling ball to compete against others, demonstrate how well you can read, understand, and execute or follow directions, but most importantly, to have fun with the unpredictability of bowling. Okay, now we'll go over the competition schedule. A link to the schedule can be found on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website, as shown here. It is one of those blue tabs found on the main screen. There are 3 important dates or deadlines that every team must meet. Registration, which closes February 13th. The submittals, the document submittals, which must be made by March 5th. And of course, the competition itself, which takes place in Chicago on March 29th. First, the deadline is to register your team for the competition. Registration closes February 13th, as I said. And the link to register your team can be found on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website, as shown here. Currently, registration is open, and to register means you must complete that online registration form, which includes providing a primary team contact person and a faculty advisor. Please note that every person on the team must also be registered for the ACI convention itself. And also note, it is not necessary at the time of registration to know and include every team member. This will be done at a later date, which we'll go over later. Submit all documentation is the second deadline, and it is must have it submitted by Thursday, March 5th. Documentation is submitted through the registration portal. This is the same registration portal that you use to register your team. Use the same email address and password that you used to create your registration account. There are 4 components to the documentation that must be submitted, which we will go over shortly. The third and final deadline, of course, is to attend the competition, which is Sunday, March 29th in Chicago, actually Rosemont. The competition itself is organized into 3 time slots, and each team will be placed in one of those 3 time slots. The check-in times for the time slots will be published on Friday, March 20th. ACI will send an email to each team's contact person with their team's check-in time. Now, I would like to discuss the document submittal. As I said previously, all documents are submitted through the registration portal. First document is the design file. The design file is where the team provides their fiber reinforced concrete mix design and their predictions on bowling ball performance. An Excel template is provided on the ACI FRC bowling ball competition website, as shown here. Click on the Design Submittal button to download the template. The template includes a blank design form as well as a sample form. Of course, each team must submit a completed design file on time. The second document is the team PowerPoint slide. The slide must include a photo of each team member with their name below their photo. A template is provided on the registration portal. Here you can see that I have made a sample from this template. Remember that photos must be appropriate for a professional audience at the competition. So if your photo is something that you wouldn't be proud of to show in a professional manner, then you should probably retake the photo. The third document to submit is the letter of verification from your school. This document must confirm that each team member is a current student of the school and must also provide current status of the faculty advisor for the team. This letter can only be submitted by the faculty advisor or another school official. Please note that there is a place on the registration portal to request a verification letter from the school official. Simply provide the name and email address of the school official or faculty member who will submit the verification letter for your team. Then click send request now, and an email will be sent that includes all the necessary information. The last piece of the documentation is, of course, to provide all the remaining team members' name and required information. Now on to the rules for the competition. Like all of the other documents, a link to the official rules can be found in various places on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website. However, the main link can be found right on the main page of the website, as shown here. I am not going to review every rule during this webinar. Most of this competition, or part of this competition, is your team's ability to read, interpret, and follow directions. In other words, follow the rules. As an engineering professional, you will be expected to read, interpret, and comply with customer specifications, as well as various government and society standards, specifications, regulations, and codes, such as ACI or ASTM specifications. This portion of the competition is meant to mimic this professional expectation as you enter the working world. But regardless of anything I say or review during this webinar, the official rules for the competition are found in the rules document on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website. In addition, all posted information on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website is the whole of the information that each team must read and follow. As in real life, it is up to you to research and study all information provided in order for you to succeed in this competition. And I would like to review some important points about the judging as stated on the FRC Bowling Ball Competition website, which you can read here. Basically, the judges will determine whether or not rules have been followed. The decision is ultimately the judge's decision, and their decisions are final. The judges retain the right to use any means or methods that they feel are necessary to verify or enforce the rules and the requirements of the competition. They retain the right to interpret, modify, or eliminate any section or sections of these rules as special circumstances arise. Judges may allow teams to compete that have that have been deemed ineligible for prizes. In general, about the rules, if something is not stated in the rules or elsewhere on the website, then there is no rule against it. In other words, permission is given to do whatever you want to do unless the rules state otherwise. Now we'll go on to the competition scoring. A score is awarded to each bowling ball for both the design competition and the analysis competition. The design competition compares predictions to convention results. So each team is basically competing against itself, and the winning team has the least amount of difference between their predictions and the competition results. The analysis competition compares each team's convention test results, so each team is competing against all the other teams, and the winning team has more points than the other teams. There are 6 tests that are used to attain the scores, the competition scores. These scores are then converted into competition points, which are based on a relative importance and a 100-point score. Teams are then ranked based on their competition points. The first test is the specifications test. 10% of each team's competition points go into giving them their specification test points. The specifications test is basically the paperwork part of the competition, that you have submitted the required documentation completely and on time. The documents that are submitted are reviewed by the judges before the day of the competition. There are penalties for late submittals, so be sure that you read the rules, which in this respect are lines 111 through 127 on the rules document. Second test is the mass test. This comprises 10% of each team's competition points. Each bowling ball is weighed. The balls must be 5.5 plus or minus a half of a kilogram. The actual mass of each ball in kilograms will be its mass test score. For more information, see rules lines 129 through 137. The diameter test is the third test. It comprises 10% of each team's competition points. You are supposed to produce a consistent spherical shape for each bowling ball. The bowling balls are measured along 3 different random axes. The balls must be 200 millimeters plus or minus 15 millimeters in diameter. Those 3 diameter measurements consist the diameter test score for that ball. For more information, please see rules lines 139 to 147. The bowling test comprises the fourth of the tests. It consists of 30% of the team's competition points. One of the 2 balls which you will bring to the competition is randomly selected to perform the bowling test. The number of frames that will be bowled the day of the competition is determined much closer to the day of the competition. It all depends on how many teams there are. The bowling ball is rolled down the ramp. It is not thrown, so does not need finger holes. The total number of pins that you are able to knock down is the bowling test score for this portion. For more information, see rules lines 149 to 199. The 5th test is the toughness test. It comprises 20% of each team's competition points. The ball that is not chosen for the bowling test will be used to undergo the toughness test and the following load test, which we'll go over in a minute. A compression testing machine is used to apply a load. 5 load readings at intervals of 5 millimeters of cross-head travel are recorded, and then these 5 readings are averaged to give you a toughness test score. Please note that if the applied load at any time exceeds 70,000 pounds, then the team's toughness test score will be 0. This is because the machine's max capacity is 70,000 pounds. Please see rules lines 201 to 212 for more information. The final test is the load test, and this kind of follows along with the toughness test. It comprises 20% of your team's competition points. So after all of the toughness test readings have been recorded, The load will then be applied to the bowling ball until crosshead travel has reached 25 millimeters. The load at this deformation or crosshead travel is recorded, and this is your final deformation load, and this is your load test score. For more information, please see rules line 214 to 219. Next, I would like to go over the frequently asked questions that are posted on the website. Link to FAQs can be found on the FRC bowling ball competition website, like everything else, as shown here. These FAQs are a compiled list of questions that have been submitted by email. Answers to the questions are provided by the judges and then are sent by email reply back to the sender. Questions can be submitted to the email address shown on your screen, which is students@concrete.org. If your team has any questions, feel free to post them and send them to this email. The list of FAQs will be updated periodically as new questions come in with their answers. For example, the next update is expected by or before February 6th, and there are planned to be 2 other updates before the competition. Before submitting a question, here are a few important points to understand and consider about how those questions are answered. Judges will not answer questions about rules from previous competitions. Those rules do not apply to this competition. Judges will not answer questions that are phrased as an implied question or that ask if a team understands a rule correctly or not. Judges will not answer questions that ask for permission to do something or for their opinion on what a team wants to do. For example, questions that include phrases such as, we plan on doing this, or can we do this, or we want to do this, or what do you think? Judges will not answer questions that are outside of the scope of the competition documents. As I stated previously, if something is not stated in the competition documents, then there is nothing against what you want to do. In other words, permission is given to do what you want unless the competition documents state otherwise. Judges will not provide an answer if it is something that they feel is your decision, not theirs. Also understand that there may or may not be competition documents for or against your decision. It is up to each team to research all of the competition documents thoroughly. Judges will not provide an answer if that answer could potentially be incorrect or cause more questions or change the established competition documents. So how should you ask questions? Before asking any questions, be sure you read all competition documents, especially the rules and FAQs. Most questions can be answered by simply reading the competition documents. Also remember that the rules document is not the sole document governing this competition. All information provided on the FRC bowling ball competition website is necessary for successfully completing this competition. When you cannot find the answer to your question, please be sure to include any reference to a competition document that covers the topic of your question. In other words, most competition documents are provided with line numbers and/or section headings so that they can easily be referenced. Be sure to include any pertaining line numbers or section headings to your question. Using line numbers or headings allows the judges to understand your question more fully and to provide answers that are appropriate. If no line numbers or headings are available, please provide a limited screen capture of the topic in question. How are questions answered? Judges provide answers that are as simple and straightforward and as consistent as possible. No questions are answered with an intent to give any team an advantage. When possible, the answer will cite competition documents that you should refer to, such as the schedule, design submittal form, rules, FAQs, or the FRC bowling ball competition webpage in general. This concludes my portion of our webinar. I would like to thank you for participating in this webinar, and I hope that the information provided has been helpful. I am now going to turn it over to Cliff McDonald, who is current chair for the subcommittee 544B, fiber reinforced concrete education, and who puts on this bowling ball competition. Cliff is also one of the judges for the competition. Cliff would like to briefly add his comments regarding the FAQs and to answer any questions you may have. So Cliff, take it away.
Thank you, Bev. I'm going to apologize up front that if I get into a coughing spell, Bev's going to take over again. So what I wanted to do was provide you with an example question and how we've answered it. So the question has not been edited into American grammar. The question is this, was stated this way. Sorry for not numbering the rule lines. Rules lines 129 to 135 says the bowling ball mass shall be 5.5 plus or minus 0.5 kg. But it does not say how it will score compared to other teams. The content under heading in the competition website says only produce a consistent mass for each bowling ball. And that also does not tell how the score is going to work compared to other teams. If we get 2 bowling balls with the same mass, will we score 10%? Or will we have to get 2 bowling balls with the mass really near 5.5 kg to score 10%? Is there a formula to compare teams' scores? So by example, this may be some of the this may be your question, or it may be similar to some of the questions that you've been thinking about asking. So I want to, again, as an example, provide you with the answer to that question that I just finished. Our answer from the judges and the committee is C, the fiber reinforced concrete bowling ball competition subheadings. In other words, go to the web page, and it's at the top of the web page. It says FRC bowling ball competition. There are subheadings underneath there, and one of the subheadings is bowling ball design competition. Unfortunately, the bullet points under that subheading are not numbered, but we want to draw special attention to the 5th and 6th bullet point in the list under the bowling ball, listed under the subheading bowling ball design competition. Also, we said under the subheading bowling ball analysis competition, pay special attention to the 5th and 6th bullet points listed under that subheading. Also read in detail under the subheading scoring, and especially the second sentence of that paragraph. We also said to see rules line 137. So since I have that printed out, I will read to you what that answer, or what the point is regarding the 5th and 6th bullet point under the subheading design competition, bowling ball design competition. The 5th and the 6th bullet point says the design competition compares predictions and convention results. So each team is competing against itself. The 6th point says the winning team has the least difference between predictions and results. Under the subheading bowling ball analysis competition, the 5th bullet point says the analysis competition compares convention test results, so each team is competing against all the other teams. And the 6th bullet point is the winning team has more points than the other teams. The second sentence under scoring is these scores will be converted into competition points based on relative importance and a 100 points based score. The percentage distribution is related to which test is being conducted. Under the rules, line 137, it says the actual mass of the bowling ball in kg will be the mass test score. So if you've been able to keep enough of this information in your head verbally, we've attempted to answer the questions of these questions that were, or these multiple questions or statements that were placed in this question that I started this discussion with. It says, but it does not say how the score will be compared to other teams. Well, yes, it does, right in those bullet points. And how is the score going to work compared to the other teams? Well, it's a simple comparison. There's no formula necessary. We have to get there to the competition to determine how it's going to compare. We can't answer that question. We can just say that it's a comparison will be made between what you predicted and what you achieved as a score during the competition. So one of the questions is, a portion of the question was, is there a formula to compare the team scores? Well, yes, it's a simple comparison. In other words, he who has the most points essentially wins. It's not. It is what it is. We can't. We struggle to explain it any different than the way it says in the competition documents. So our responses, we've listed almost 30, or we've received almost 32 questions since the competition went live, and fully 60% of the questions have been answered by saying, read the documents and the rules with specific line numbers. Again, I'm trying to stress this point. It's not our responsibility to tie all of the pieces together. That's the nature of the competition, is for you to read all of the competition documents and put the pieces together, which is just like having to make decisions out of school and in your professional employment to understand what's significant and will influence the decisions that you're trying to make as a professional. So with that, I'm going to do my best to be quiet and allow you, the audience, to ask questions. And beware, I am going to say, well, let's refer to the rules, line such and such, such and such. So I'm going to be quiet and turn it over, I think, to Kenneth. Will let me know if there's been any questions that have come in.
Thank you, Cliff and Bev. We do have a couple of questions that have been submitted so far. I do want to remind the students who are on the line, there is a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have a question, please submit it there, and I will be able to see it and read it to our competition chairs. The first question I have is asking, in the mixed design form, do we have to specify which materials are used? For example, under cementitious, do we substitute that with the type of supplements that were used?
If I understand the question, and if the student would look at the spreadsheet, the submittal or the design submittal essentially has quantities or numeric values that are to be input. There is no place for describing what materials were used. Those are already described. The idea is to fill out the form with numerical values in most places on the form, and then there is a 3-word maximum and a 2-word maximum, which are on lines 26 through 29 and 30 through 34 on the design submittal spreadsheet.
Okay, and we also have a couple of questions on here about the mass of the ball. They're wanting to know whether or not the mass can be below 5.5 kg.
That's what is typically understood and meant by a tolerance that's given as to plus or minus 0.5 kg. That
Okay.
That's line 131 in the rules.
Okay, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Another tolerance is given in the rules, line 142. The bowling ball shall measure 200 plus or minus 15 millimeter diameter.
Okay, you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Okay, is it allowable to use special concrete like ultra high performance concrete?
I'll answer it this way. If it says you can't do it, don't do it. If it doesn't say anything, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. But we are not going to make a decision as to whether or not that should be done or not be done or whatever. That's your decision, not our decision.
I have a question regarding the mixed design spreadsheet. Can you only use one size of fiber length, even if you are using two different fiber types?
Well, I would go to the design submittal, and I would look at line number 18 on the design submittal, and it says fiber all same length. I'm done.
Okay. Is everyone limited to one supplementary cementitious material?
It asks for a quantity under line number 9. It says supplementary cement material, and it looks for a kg per cubic meter or a pound per cubic yard. It looks for the numbers. I'm done.
Okay, I don't currently have any other questions in the box, but we'll give the students a few more minutes to type any additional questions that you have for Cliff. While we're waiting for that, Cliff, do you have anything else that you want to add or elaborate on any of the questions that you were asked previously?
No, I think I guess I'd ask if it's not that we're unwilling to answer any of the questions, but the answer is frequently right there in the documents. This update that we expect will be out by February 6th regarding the an update to the frequently asked questions will, as best I know, help focus the students' questions. I think that it's important to understand this concept. General questions can only be answered with general answers. One of the reasons that we supplied the line numbers and we're asking for screen captures is for us to be able to focus both you as the questioner and us as the answers with exactly understanding what is the question. So we can't become any more specific because we don't want to say, well, we think that's a good idea or that's a bad idea or you shouldn't do that because we say in the rules you shouldn't do this. It's a matter of you determining what the rules say, not pressing, the expression is pressing the easy button by asking us to answer the question that you ought to be able to find in the documents. In other words,
okay, I just had a couple more questions come in. How does the weight and the diameter precision affect the average obtained?
Well, again, I go back to the 5th and the 6th bullet points under the competition. I don't know what your values are, and I don't know what the competition's values are. So I can't answer how it's going to affect things. A tolerance is understood by everyone to be that the target value is the value given, and the tolerance is the allowable tolerance.
Okay, it looks like I don't have any other questions currently coming through. I do want to let everyone on the webinar know that this webinar will be recorded and it will be available for on demand. We'll probably have this link posted on the FRC bowling ball competition page by Monday, so you will be able to watch it again and share it with the rest of your team members.
Knut, I'd like to add that under the FAQs on the website, we're going to modify the blue box there to add the date of the latest update, so that, and we've scheduled the times to say, okay, we will have the next FAQ update will happen by February 6th. Then the FAQ will be updated again February 27 and March 19. So in other words, what I'm suggesting is that the students can, or the teams can put into their calendars that they need to check back under the, they need to check back and look at the website and go to the FAQs on those dates to ensure that their questions have been answered. I'm done.
Okay. I did have a couple of more. You have a few more minutes. Some questions were coming in while you were speaking.
Okay.
Someone says that they need more details about lines number 203 and 204 and the reasons for them.
I'm going to go to those lines, 203 and 204. Oh, I'm sorry. I went to the wrong document. I apologize. Okay, the reason for 203 and 204, those lines is, again, the machine capacity is 70,000 pounds. If the applied load exceeds 70,000 pounds, you run the risk of breaking the machine. We don't want to break the machine. That, I think, is, and the reason for that is, or why we have that rule in there, is to communicate that if you don't know enough about your bowling ball and you exceed the 70,000 pounds, which is the limit that we've established, because we get to establish the limits because that's the competition. If you exceed that, your score will be 0 because you didn't follow the rules. You didn't know what was going on. Therefore, then, your score is 0.
I have an additional comment to that, Cliff.
Yes.
If your bowling ball is strong enough that the machine reaches its limit at 70,000 pounds, you will actually not be able to finish the load test portion of the competition because the machine will not be able to reach 25 millimeter crosshead movement because it can't apply any more load after 70,000 pounds. Thus, your ball is not going to get crushed any further. So it behooves you to make sure you understand the material performance of your ball that it can reach the 25 millimeter deformation before 70,000 pounds is reached.
I hope that answers the question, Kenneth, because we can't, I don't know how many different ways, or that's it.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I have a question that might be a little bit more simple. It says, do we need to present technical data sheet of the materials?
So my answer is, where is the request in the documents for that? In other words, we've stated the rules. If you make up rules, that's your business. There's no place in the rules that I know of that say you have to submit that type of information. We've asked for the design submittal. We've asked for, I think, 3 other items. That's what we're asking for. If you need to go get those to better understand what you're doing, fine, have at it. But it's not a question, it's not a relevant question for the rules. But that's a good example of where if we were asked that question online, our response would be no comment. So that's the end of that answer, Kenneth.
Okay. You may have already answered this because I keep seeing a lot of questions with regard to Rule 131. And it seems like a lot of people don't understand whether or not they could have the mass of 5.5 or go up to 6 kg. And how that'll affect the scoring.
Well, how it affects the scoring is if they tell us, or if they come back and say, and if they predict our ball is going to weigh 6 kgs, okay, that's fine. They're going to get a score for that. And the score, which it says clearly on rule, in the rules, line 137, the actual mass of the bowling ball in kg will be the mass test score. How that score will be manipulated is described in the 5th and 6th bullet points under the design portion of the design heading and the analysis heading of the website. And how that's going to work out is completely unknown what the score is going to be, because we don't have the rest of the data to be able to say what the score will be as a result. The point is, we're trying to say your bowling ball ought to weigh 5.5 kgs with a tolerance somewhere between plus and minus a half kg. It's as straightforward as it can possibly be. If the weight is over, if the weight is under, there's a difference between what we can't predict it any further. We can't describe it any further other than that's what it is. I don't understand why this is confusing.
Well, I don't have any more questions in the chat box, so we'll go ahead and get ready to close out the webinar. I want to thank Beverly and Cliff for being here today. And just remind you all, as was previously stated within the webinar, if you have questions, please check the frequently asked questions page on the ACI Bowling Ball website, as well as if there are some questions that you do not see the answers to, you will send those to students@concrete.org, and we'll pass those questions along to Cliff so that he can review them. There will be a survey also at the end of this webinar. Please complete that survey so we can get your feedback and provide you with additional webinars in the future. And don't forget to register for the competition on February 13th if your university team is planning to attend. The early bird registration deadline to attend the actual convention is February 23rd for you to get the discount student pricing. That concludes today's webinar presentation. We hope it was helpful, and we look forward to seeing all of you in Chicago Rosemont in March. Thank you, Cliff and Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth.